First, the Syrian coalition was not actually invited. The Russian foreign ministry chose not to invite political entities, but they preferred inviting some political personalities. So the Syrian coalition had no option first to start with. Second of all, the list of attendees showed that the Russians were not really serious about these negotiations. Most of the people that they chose were people who lived in Damascus, closely associated with the regime, and they were counted, the Russians invited them as Syrian opposition. The 5 members that were invited from the Syrian coalition also decided not to attend, and they sent a letter to the Russian foreign ministry. The invitation that came from the Russians talked about a Syrian dialogue amongst the opposition, but that's something that we've started a few months back. That's something that has been going on now for the last 3-4 months. And really, we don't feel that the Russians are a party that can be in the middle between the opposition and the Assad regime. The reality is that the Russians have made their position very clear. They continue until today to support the Assad regime with the bullets that killed over 300,000 Syrians. They continue to provide all sorts of support, whether it's political or military support to the Assad regime. Just looking at the article, I'm like, should I respond? But it's like one of those things that the Americans really don't want to. The US has been very clear that Assad must go, that Assad will have no place in a future Syria. President Obama has said that endless number of times. Now, it only makes sense for the US to allow the Russians to hold this conference and have a try at it, have a go at it, knowing that the Russians are not serious. But at least politically, the way I read it, that it doesn't make sense for Secretary Kerry to come out and say, well, we're against the Russian initiative. The reality, the Americans have been very clear. They continue to support the Syrian opposition at multiple levels, whether it's politically or they just announced, for example, $6 million to the interim government. So they're putting also their money where their mouth is.